Lesker Nano36 Thermal Evaporator training video.
Thermal evaporation is a common physical vapor deposition process. It could be used for optical, mechanical, or electronic coatings. Thermal evaporator works by passing current through a bolt which contains source materials inside it. The source material will undergoes from the solid state phase to the vapor phase by means of the thermal heating. The evaporated atoms then travel in straight lines due to a long mean-free path created by the vacuum status, and then it will deposit on top of your sample on top of your wafers. Unlike sputtering, thermal evaporation could not form conformal films. It makes the deposition much more directed, and the side walls of the patterns are not or less coated. So the thermal evaporation is an excellent choice for wafers that require lift-off process.
Lesker Nano36 is ordinarily used to evaporate films of gold, silver, copper, and chromium. It is equipped with vacuum chamber, able to load a single 8-inch wafer or multiple smaller subjects. Provides 3 evaporation sources for multi-layer deposition. The system achieves high vacuum via a turbo pump, which is backed by an oil-based roughing pump, and is capable of achieving vacuum of in the 10 to the -7 torr range. A typical process, the chamber should be pumped down to 5 × 10 to the -6 torr, and typical deposition rates are 0.5 or 1 electron per second. If your samples are sensitive to the X-ray radiation, this system will be a good choice for deposition process. It offers reliable PLC control with a color touchscreen interface. The front panel touchscreen is located directly under the chamber view window. Single button commands and manual operation could be accessed from this touchscreen. It could display the chamber pressure and pump status. It also contains pump down, vent, shutter controls, or sample rotation. Evaporation methods are controlled via a quartz crystal sensor in conjunction with a thin film controller. Ensures an automatic control of the film thickness. Using the FTC, the films and the processes could be selected and edited. This display shows process selected, the film used, and the deposition process flow. It could also display the different graphs during deposition, which include the power versus time, the deposition rate versus time, and the deposition rate deviation versus time.
Then we will talk about the operation of this system. Before you use the Lesker Thermal Evaporator, please reserve this tool online. And also, you need to log your information on the paper logbook. Please remember to include the pump down time in your reservation and also on the logbook. Step 1. Verify system status. Every user needs to keep the chamber under vacuum after the deposition process. If pump down is completed, the green down button will show on the screen, and the pressure should be less than 1 × 10 to -5 torr, and then you could press the down button. It will return back to the vacuum monitor screen. Make sure the cooling water is in the green status. If it's in the red status, please report to the staff. Next, press the DEP button and make sure the power off button is in the gray status. Make sure power supply is off before you went to the chamber. Step 2. Vent chamber. Please press the recipe button in the control screen and touch the vent button to run vent recipe. It's usually need around 1 minute for this process. And when this process is completed, and you will find there will have the green down button on the screen. And then you could press the down button. It will return back to the vacuum monitor screen. It means the chamber has reached the atmosphere pressure, and also chamber door should be able to open. Step 3, load sample and deposition materials. So this is the first part, 3.1. We will talking about how to load the sample to this deposition chamber. So we need to open the chamber door first, and then we can remove the sample holder and from the chamber. We just remove the plate, lifting it slightly, and slide it out over the alignment pins. And during this process, please make sure check the crystal monitor and do not touch the crystal monitor. And then we need to mount samples. So samples must be mounted to the sample holder using the metal clips and screws. If you have several small samples, you could mount your sample to a large glass slide using the single-sided or double-sided Kapton tape. And this is an example, and we mount the small sample to the glass slide. And then you load this glass slide to the sample holder. You can remove these metal clips and to any position you want, but if you just have the one sample, it's better to put the sample in the middle of the sample holder. It will give you the more uniform coating on top of your sample surface. And then we put the metal clip on top of the glass slide, and then we just tighten those screws. Make sure the samples are firmly attached there. And also, it will not cut off if we held upside down. If you have a large wafer, you can directly mount it on top of sample holder. This is another example here. And then we could put this plate into the chamber. We can slide it over and down onto the two alignment pins. Okay, so we finished the first step, and we are ready to go to the next step and load the deposition materials. Next, we were talking about load deposition materials. Firstly, we need to go to the control screen again, and then press the DEP button. And next, we need to touch the shutter control button. So it will open the shutter inside the chamber. And then we can install the evaporation bolt or rod. So today we will load the copper bolts and the chromium rod. Usually we load the copper bolts on pocket 1 and pocket 3, and load the chromium rod on pocket 2. And now we load this bolt on pocket 3, but there have one silver bolt there, so we need to remove it first. We lose the bolt there and grab it out. And next, we insert our copper bolt in. Inside there have one washer. Make sure you put your bolt under the washer. And outside they have two washers, so make sure you put the bolt between that two washers. And then we just tighten those bolts snugly. And make sure you just use your finger to tighten it. Do not use any tool. This is because during your process, you will heat up these bolts. And if you tighten it too much, and the bolts will become brittle and may break prematurely. And then we grab the silver bolts out, and now we are ready to close the shutter. And now you can check the shutter is closed. And then we need to carefully close and lock the chamber door. Usually silver, copper, and gold bolt could be loaded in cells number 1 or number 3, and the chromium rod is loaded in cells number 2. Please check the evaporation bolt to ensure that the cell's material is at the proper level and for your deposition process. Due to the limited capacity of tungsten bolt and rod, the thickness limit is 200 nanometers per bolt for gold, silver, and copper, and 40 nanometers per rod for chromium. Start will load the silver, chromium, and copper inside the chamber in cells number 1, 2, and 3. If you need to deposit the gold, you need to load the gold bolt by yourself. If you need to purchase the melted gold bolt or tungsten bolt, just let me know and send email to me so I will prepare the gold bolt for you. Step 4. Pump down chamber. Please press the recipe button on the control screen and then touch the pump down button. The pump down cycle will run automatically. And also remember to press the lower right corner of the chamber door firmly for a few seconds. This will help seal the chamber at the beginning of pump down. You should also see the pressure will drop on the screen. If it did not drop in next 15 minutes, it will about the pump down process. And also wait until the pressure is less than 1 times 10 to minus 5 torr, and you will find they will have a green down button on the screen. It usually needs around 30 minutes for this process. And now we can press the down button. It will return back to the vacuum monitor screen. And you can find now the pressure is around the 6.8, 6.7 times 10 to minus 6 torr. And we still need to wait a little longer until the pressure below than 5 times minus 6 torr, and then we can start the next step. Step 5, deposition. With the pressure reaches below than 5 times 10 to minus 6 torr, usually it needs around 5 to 8 minutes after the pumping down is finished. And then we can go back to the Nano36 touch screen controller. Press the depth menu and make sure the water flow button is still in the green status. And now we could choose the cells pocket number. So there have SW1, SW2, and SW3. So from the left to right, the pocket number is number 1, 2, 3. And here we choose the cells 1, and for example. So we press SW1. And next, we turn the power supply on. We press the power supply on. And then we turn the FTC on. We press FTC on button. And if you want to rotate the sample holder plate during your process, and we could press the subject menu, you touch the motor rotate button, and press the black arrow to input the rotation speed. The suggested speed is 55% per second, so this is around 10 rolls per minute. And then we can set the thickness and some parameters in another controller. So it is called the FTC 2800 controller. And this controller is not a touch screen. So you need to using the buttons. It's on the left. And also you need to use the wheel on right to select or change the values. First, we want to add the source pocket number in the field menu. Press the next menu until you find the field menu is shown on the screen, and then press the field menu. You find there have the low and high recipes for the gold, silver, and copper. It has only one recipe for the chromium. So if your deposition thickness is less than 50 nanometers, choose low recipe. If the thickness is more than 50 nanometers, and you can choose a high recipe. For the chromium, you really use adhesion layer, so we just have one recipe for the chromium. So now we take the copper low recipe and as an example. So we rotate the wheel into the copper low and press it. And now we can rotate it to the pocket number. It's pocket 3. So this time we loaded the copper pocket 1, so we can change it back to the pocket 1. And then we press enter here. And when this number is ready, and then we can go back to main screen, press the to main, and then if they already have the process menu, you just press the process menu. If you choose a low recipe in the field menu, and also choose a low recipe in the process menu. If you choose a high recipe in the field menu, also choose a high recipe in the process menu. So now we choose a copper low recipe. And then we added the final thickness and to your desired thickness. So now we want to change it back to the 5 nanometers. And then we press enter. And next, we can run the deposition. So you can also check the operation mode and make sure the operation mode is auto mode. So if it's manual in the first place, it's manual mode. If auto in the first place, it is auto mode. So you need to make sure it is auto mode. And then you press the stop layer, and the deposition will run automatically. It will control your power, your weight, and the thickness automatically for the whole process. And usually for the evaporation process, it including the several stages. So like they have the preconditioning, deposition, and post-conditioning. Preconditioning also have like rise 1, soak 1, rise 2, and soak 2. So usually the rise 1, the power will increase. And then we start melt materials inside it. And then we go to soak 1 phase, and that is melt uniformly inside of the whole bolt. And we keep increase the power again. We go to rise 2 phase, and then we go to soak 2 phase, and we can let the power level. And it's already have some deposition rate, but it's in the low rate there, and make sure it have some of the deposition, but not very high deposition rate. So during this time, we still keep the shutter closed. And if there have some oxidation on your evaporation materials bolt, or if there have some contamination in that bolt, so those oxides or contamination will be blocked by the shutter, cannot go to your sample on your sample surface. And when the soak 2 phase is finished, and then the shutter will be open automatically, and the wafer can go to your substrate and form the thin film on top of your substrate. And during deposition, so if you also want to change the deposition thickness, and you can still change it through the quick edit. So before your deposition thickness go to the set value, you can always change it. And if you go to the wrong numbers you don't want to change, you can press a cancel. It will not change it. And also you can check the crystal lifetime. And through the sensor info, you can press the next menu. And then you can find that they have the sensor info. So now the life is around the 75%, is still a good number. But if you find the number is less than the 20%, and please set the start now. And we need to change a new one and make sure we have exact control for our thickness. And if you find there have any unusual situation during the deposition process, and like the rate is keep decreasing, but the power keep increasing, or you find your bolt is melt, and you can just press that stop layer. It will be about your deposition process. And you can report to staff, and staff can help you to figure out what's problems there and can help you to fix that issues. And now we just waited to finish the preconditioning phase. So it is in the soak 2 phase. Okay, the shutter is opening there, and the deposition starts. And you may find the power will keep increasing, and also the rate will also increase into set values. So usually for the low recipe, we set the rate is 0.5 actual per second, and for high recipe, we set the rate is 1 actual per second. And during deposition, and you can always check through the window and to check the bolt situation there. Just to remember, so when the metal bolt or rod starts to turn red, it's better to put on a protective welding goggles. So if there is any unusual situation happen, and you can also press the stop later and report to the staff. And using the sunglasses when wearing these materials, it can prevent the eye damage there. And or if that is a window is already coated by some metals, for like it's more than the 50 nanometers there, and you can also look through it. It will also have some protection layer on that windows by that deposition. Okay, and when the thickness reaches the set value, and the shutter will be closed, and the power will slowly down to 0. And also the current will also slowly down to 0. And now we just need to wait the power down to 0, the current down to 0, and the deposition process is finished. And also you may find on the screen, so they will have a stopped and let you know your process is stopped. So if you still need to run another layer deposition, and you could set the pocket numbers in the field menu, and also set the final thickness in the process menu, and press the start to run another layer deposition. So like what we're talking about these deposition procedures here. And if all your layer deposition is finished, you go back to the Nano36 control screen, turn off the FTC, and turn off the power supply. And then we go to subject menu, and we turn off the motor rotation. And that is all for our deposition step. Step 6, vent chamber. Wait around 10 to 15 minutes after your deposition is completed, and press the recipe button in the control screen, and then touch the vent button to run the vent recipe. It also needs around 1 to 2 minutes. And when it is completed, the green down button will also show on the screen. And then press the down button. It means the chamber has reached atmosphere pressure, and now we can open the door to unload your sample from chamber. Step 7, unload sample and deposition materials. We open the chamber door, and then we could unload the sample from the chamber. After the rotation, if you find the opening faces to you, and please rotate it and make sure the opening faces inside. This will be more easier to get the sample holder out without touching the crystal monitor. You can lift it up and grab it out. Then you could loosen the screw to get the sample out. This is the sample of the deposition. Please remember to tighten the screws on the sample holder after removing your samples, and do not leave any tape on the sample holder. And now you could put the sample holder and back to the chamber. You can slide it in and put it back. And for the evaporation materials, please leave the silver, copper bolt, and the chromium bolt inside the chamber. After the deposition process, you're allowed to remove your own gold cells from the chamber. And now you could go to the DEP menu and open the shutter manually. And then you can loosen the bolts to grab your bolt out. And also remember to tighten the bolts after removing your gold cells. And if you unload any silver or the copper bolt out to load your gold bolt in for your deposition, remember to put the copper or the silver bolt back into the chamber. And also now you can manually close the shutter, and then we can carefully close and lock the chamber door. Step 8, pump down chamber. Press the recipe button in control screen and then touch the pump down button. And the pump down cycle should run automatically. Also remember now you need to press the right lower corner of the chamber door firmly at the beginning of the pumping down to help to seal the chamber. And you need to wait around 3 to 5 minutes and check whether the roughing valve is opening, and also check whether the pressure drops. And if you find the pressure drops, and then you could fill out your information in the paper logbook, and now you could leave the lab. So just double check, make sure the chamber is under vacuum before you leave. If you find if there have any error or if they have the pressure do not change, and please report to staff and leave a note near the system.
Next, I would like to talk about some special notes you need to know when you're using this machine. You can only use a thermal evaporator if you have been approved by the MRL microfab staff, reserved to online, and also logged your usage on a paper logbook. This tool could be used for the gold, copper, silver, and chromium deposition. If you need to evaporate other materials, please talk with staff. You must wear the gloves when you need to touch any parts inside the chamber, or you need to handle your substrate or your deposition materials. Only the clean samples that do not outgas could be used for this deposition process. A clean substrate is very important for you to get good film adhesion. When you are done with your work, please leave the chamber under vacuum. Pump down the chamber. Do not leave it under atmosphere status. This is a Lesker Nano36 evaporator troubleshooting table. And it will tell you if you have some problems during your usage of this tool, what you need to do. First, if you find the thickness not sewn properly, it may be because the crystal lifetime is less than 20%. Report to the staff to replace the quartz crystal on the thickness monitor hand. Next, during your deposition, you find the deposition rate decrease, but the power still increase. It may be because the source material is used up. Please press stop layer to stop your process, and use another bolt for the deposition and report to the staff to refill the materials later. And then you also find that during deposition, your power, your current suddenly drop to 0. It may be because your bolt is broken or melted during your deposition process. Press the stop layer to stop your process. Use another bolt for your deposition and report to the staff to replace the bolt later. And there may also have some errors during the pumping down process. It may be because of different type of reasons. And the first may be because of the cooling water is not enough. You may find the cooling water switch status is in the red status, and report to the staff to check the cooling water status. And if the turbo pump or the roughing pump, any pump stopped working, and you may find this pump button on the vacuum monitor screen is in the gray status, and please report to the staff to check the pump status. And if you press the abort pump button, it may also have these problems, and you need to acknowledge error and try it again. But if it still have these problems, and you still need to report to the staff. If no staff is available and the instrument is not working as expected, you should do the following. First, please press the stop layer button on FTC screen to stop your process. And then please send email to microfab staff at mrl.illinois.edu. If possible, please stay by the instrument while trying to contact the microfab staff member. If it is necessary to leave the instrument, please leave a note on the Lesker Nano36 evaporator stating the instrument is down, and log this information on the paper logbook.
If there's any dangerous situation in that room, so there have the building emergency, that room have the gas leaking or chemical leaking, and you could press that EMO button, so which you could find is under the FTC screen, and notify all the users in that room and leave the 326 room firstly. And then you can go to a safety place, and then you can call someone for help. After watching this training video, if you have any questions about this machine's operation, or during your process later you have any questions about the process development, welcome to contact me. You can call my office phone, you can go to my office, send me an email, and I'm here to help you on the operation and the process development. And I hope you could get the good results with our machine here.